They say the desert remembers what the world forgets, that in silence, some truths echo louder than in cities. This is one of those places, where history is not told. It is carved in stone, written in sand, and sung through the wind. Welcome to Israel, a land of ancient echoes, sacred divides, and timeless light. In the golden heart of Jerusalem, three great faiths breathe through ancient stone. The dome of the rock glows at sunrise, gilded and still, watching over a city that has wept and worshipped for millennia. Here, every step is a pilgrimage, through alleys lined with incense, past walls that have seen prophets walk and empires fall. The scent of myrrh, the sound of prayer, the weight of time, all meet in this city of eternal tension and transcendence. Venture into the stillness of the Judean desert, where sunlit cliffs fall into silence. From the high fortress of Masada, gaze across the yawning vastness, a place where stories of defiance still cling to the rocks. Below, the Dead Sea stretches like liquid glass, heavy with salt and memory. Float upon it and feel yourself suspended, not just in water, but in wonder. In the Ain Gedi Nature Reserve, waterfalls leap from dry cliffs, painting the desert with life. Ibex climb narrow ledges with ancient grace, and fig trees sway in oasis breezes. This is the wilderness David once fled to, and when the sunlight filters through papyrus leaves, time feels paused, hushed, divine. Further north, the Sea of Galilee shimmers like a silver bowl cradled by hills. Fishermen still cast their nets here, as they did in parables long ago. The wind stirs soft ripples that carry the weight of miracles. Sit by the shore, and the silence might speak, of footsteps on water, of hope made flesh. In Haifa, the Baha'i gardens cascade like green fire down the mountain, a staircase of peace overlooking the sea. Symmetry here is sacred, order divine. Each blossom a prayer, each terrace a whisper for unity in a fractured world. Far to the south, in the Negev desert, lies Ramon Crater, Earth's quiet wound. A scar carved not by war but by time itself. Stand at its edge and feel the pulse of a planet slowly shaping itself. A landscape of ochre and fire, where the stars at night seem close enough to touch. Not all timeless places are lost in the past. Some are still breathing, etched into stone walls and washed in sea air. Akko, also known as Acre, rises from Israel's northern coastline like a living tapestry of empires. Crusaders, Ottomans, and Phoenicians all left their fingerprints on this ancient port city, and their echoes still resound in its winding alleys, salt-worn ramparts, and spice-laced markets. Here, dawn breaks over the eastern wall, where seabirds hover on gusts of brine, and sunlight shimmers against domes and minarets. The Mediterranean Sea laps gently at the base of centuries-old fortifications, whispering tales of merchant ships, sieges, and forgotten kings. Wander deeper, and time blurs. In the subterranean Templar tunnel, cool stone corridors lead you through the bones of history. Moss and shadow cling to the walls, and the damp air carries the weight of 1,000 whispered secrets once spoken in hushed Latin. Above ground, the knight's halls unfold in cavernous grandeur, arched ceilings soaring over silent flagstones that once bore the hurried steps of armored men. Shafts of light cut through high windows, illuminating the dust like suspended memories. Outside, life spills into the present. Vendors call out beneath Ottoman arches, their stalls brimming with cardamom, pomegranates, and handmade brass. The scent of grilled fish drifts from seaside taverns, mingling with old incense from hidden courtyards. Climb the Al-Jazar Mosque's minaret for a panoramic communion with Akko's soul. Red-tiled roofs, blue sea, green domes, all pressed between horizon and sky. The call to prayer spirals into the breeze, a sound as eternal as the waves. As twilight deepens, the harbor glows gold. Boats rock gently, moored like memories. Lovers sit on weathered stones, their laughter carried into the dark by sea winds. And behind them, the city hums, softly, patiently, like it's always known the secret of lasting. This is Akko, a city of thresholds, between past and present, land and sea, war and peace, where every alley holds a legend, every stone tells a story, and every sunset feels like a homecoming. Unseen by many, but unforgettable to those who listen closely. If this journey stirred something in you, subscribe to our channel and join us as we continue to unveil the unseen places of our world. There's always another story waiting just beyond the horizon. Some places don't whisper. They rise, deliberate and luminous, like a prayer sculpted into the earth. The Baha'i Gardens in Haifa, Israel, do not simply sit upon Mount Carmel. They ascend it terrace by terrace, a cascade of light, geometry, and peace that seems to defy time and gravity alike. From the foot of the mountain to its summit, 19 perfectly aligned terraces unfold like verses of a sacred poem. Symmetry reigns here, not cold or rigid, but tender, intentional. The paths are lined with cypress and hibiscus. The flower beds burst with color, and the polished stone glows in the sun like it's been washed by the heavens. At the center, the golden-domed shrine of the Bab gleams, a sanctuary of stillness nestled among the green. Its silence does not hush the world but seems to lift it upward. Every stone, every petal, every breath of wind here has a sense of reverence. Look out from the higher terraces, and Haifa unfurls below, its harbor curving gently into the Mediterranean like a blue sigh. The sea meets the sky without borders, and the city breathes softly beneath the shade of sacred geometry. Wander quietly. The gravel crunches underfoot, and bees hum in jasmine. Fountains murmur their way through hidden corners. The scent of pine, salt, and sun-drenched earth lingers in the still air. Time slows. Thought softens. Something deeper begins to stir. But this is more than beauty. It is intention. The Baha'i Gardens are not ornamental. They are an expression of unity, balance, and the harmony between the spiritual and the physical. A place where divinity is not shouted, but lived in silence and grace. And as twilight nears, golden light settles gently on the domes and stone. The last visitors descend in hushed awe. The terraces glow, soft, eternal, as if the mountain itself were exhaling. This is the Baha'i Gardens, not just a marvel of landscape architecture, but a place of soul, symmetry, and silent elevation. A garden for the world, rising in stillness, reaching towards something higher. If the spirit of this place touched you, subscribe to our channel. Join us as we continue exploring the unseen places of the world, where beauty is not just seen, but deeply felt. The Sea of Galilee doesn't shimmer, it remembers. Beneath its quiet surface lies the echo of miracles, of windswept boats and whispered parables. But it's more than a sacred relic. It's a living, breathing mirror, reflecting the hills of northern Israel in hues of silver and flame. You don't arrive here by accident. You slow into it, like slipping into a dream told by water. At dawn, the lake is glass. Egrets trace its edge with delicate steps, and the mist hugs the shoreline as if reluctant to let go. Fishermen still cast their nets with practiced grace, movements passed down like prayer. The hills that cradle this freshwater expanse rise in soft green folds, dotted with olive groves and fig trees where cicadas sing under the sun. Wind stirs the reeds along the banks, and for a moment, time dilates. You're not in the 21st century, you're outside of it. Walk along Capernaum's ancient stones where columns still stand and stories echo off the ruins. Touch basalt steps that once knew the feet of disciples, pilgrims, and wanderers alike. Then let your gaze drift back to the water, always the water, which remains unchanged, eternal. Climb Mount Arbel, where the cliffs drop into sky and lake below. From up there, Galilee stretches like a painted scroll, verdant, sacred, wide. The breeze is cool, but carries warmth from long ago, like the voice of something gentle and enduring. And at twilight, when the sun melts behind the Golan Heights, the lake becomes flame. The horizon blurs into the divine. Birds wheel and dive in silhouette. The world holds its breath. Step into the quiet of a nearby kibbutz, where life moves by sunrise and orchard. In the hum of beehives and rustle of citrus trees, you'll hear a different kind of scripture, one written in earth and labor, not parchment. Watch herons rise from the shoreline, their wings wide against the morning gold. Follow them with your eyes, and you'll understand something wordless, something the land has always known. Sit beneath a fig tree and taste its fruit, still warm from the sun. It's simple, and yet it lingers, like the lake itself, sweet and enduring. And listen, because sometimes the best way to understand this place is not through explanation, but silence. A silence so deep it humbles. This isn't just a lake, it's a threshold. To step into Galilee is to be reminded of wonder, of simplicity, of how beauty, true beauty, requires no spectacle, only stillness. This is the Sea of Galilee, a quiet miracle wrapped in hills, held in time. If this journey stirred something in you, subscribe to our channel. Let's keep exploring the unseen corners of this world, where stories sleep in stone and water waiting to be remembered. The Negev doesn't ask for your attention, it absorbs it. A vast ochre silence sprawled across southern Israel, where time itself seems to slow under the weight of sun and stone. Here, the desert doesn't merely surround you, it listens, and it remembers. As you step into the open expanse, the land unfolds in ancient rhythms. Maktesh Ramon, a massive erosion crater unlike anything else on Earth, opens like a scar carved by forgotten giants. Its layered cliffs plunge into nothingness, a prehistoric hush echoing in every grain of wind-blown sand. Walk to its edge at dawn, where shadows stretch like fingers across the stone and the horizon burns in colors you've never named. Further south, the Ain Avdat Canyon slices through limestone cliffs where ibex leap along sheer walls and spring water flows through olive groves hidden in desert folds. The stillness here is sacred. As you hike upward, each bend reveals another secret, green ferns clinging to dry rock, pools reflecting sky like polished glass. It feels like discovering the Earth's quietest breath. Beneath the ground, Avdat rises, not just in stone, but in memory. A Nabatean city once bustling with spice trade now lies sun-bleached and silent. Columns crumble toward the sun. Byzantine churches whisper in ruins. You run your hand along carved steps worn down by centuries of travelers who crossed this desert long before you. Here, silence feels like a language. Push deeper, and you'll find Bedouin communities woven into the Negev like threads of ancient fabric. Their tents dot the vastness, smoke curling from fires, children laughing in languages older than borders. Time slows around them. The desert is not their enemy. It's their rhythm, their route, their reflection. And when night comes, the Negev becomes something else entirely. The stars ignite above you, unfiltered, untamed. The sky is no longer a ceiling but a canvas, layered with galaxies, stories, and all the questions we forgot to ask. The earth cools beneath your feet, but the desert's pulse remains warm, ancient, alive. This is the Negev Desert, a place of paradox, arid but full of life, empty yet infinite in meaning. It does not bloom for applause. It endures for those who stay still long enough to understand it. Unseen by many, but unforgettable to those who listen with more than their ears. If this story stirred something within you, subscribe to our channel. Follow us through the unseen corners of the world, where silence becomes sacred and landscapes speak without words. Masada does not merely sit atop a plateau, it endures there. Rising from the Judean desert like a final stand carved in stone, it holds its silence high above the Dead Sea, steeped in defiance, myth, and the desert wind. At first light, the world below seems impossibly distant. The snake path coils up the mountainside, an ancient ascent once tread by Roman legions and Jewish rebels alike. From the summit, the desert stretches in every direction, pale, parched, and infinite. The Dead Sea glimmers on the horizon, a sheet of molten silver under the awakening sun. Step beyond the stone threshold and enter the Herodian palace, its ruins etched into the cliffside in tears, luxurious yet stark, imperial yet vulnerable. Mosaics still cling to the floor, their patterns worn but not broken. Pillars rise into the sky like watchful ghosts, remembering banquets long gone and shadows of a vanished king. Further in, the synagogue rests quietly, one of the oldest ever found. Here, prayer once wrestled with fate, and scrolls were hidden in hopes the future would read them. The silence inside feels different, reverent, preserved. A quiet charged with something deeper than history. But Masada is not just architecture. It is story. Tragedy and triumph woven into stone. In the final days of the Great Revolt, nearly 1,000 Jewish rebels took refuge here, surrounded by Roman might. They chose death over surrender, freedom, even in the end. The silence you hear on the summit is the sound of that choice echoing still. Walk the northern fortifications, where desert wind whistles through broken ramparts. Look down at the vast Roman camps still visible below, geometries of conquest etched into the sand. Time hasn't erased them. It's only buried them under light and distance. As the sun begins to sink, the whole mountain seems to burn gold. Shadows deepen in the crevices, and the wind softens to a whisper. From this height, You feel the weight of everything, of stories told and untold, of battles fought and lost, of silence earned. This is Masada, a fortress, yes, but also a monument to resolve, to memory carved in desert stone, and to the human spirit when pressed against the edge of history, unseen by many, but unforgettable to those who stand where defiance touched the sky. If this journey moved you, subscribe to our channel and follow us into the quiet corners of the world. There's always another story rising with the sun, waiting to be seen. Not all silence is empty. Some silence is vast, breathing across stones and sand, echoing through the heat like an ancient hymn. The Judean desert is one such silence, a landscape etched in ochre and gold. It stretches from Jerusalem's edge down to the shores of the Dead Sea, folding time into every dune and cliff. Stark and sacred, this is where prophets once wandered. Monks built solitude into stone, and wind carved its name into the canyons. At dawn, the desert glows like a vision. The Mount of Temptation stands in soft shadow, watching the first light wash over deep ravines and weathered plateaus. From its heights, the monastery of St. George clings impossibly to the rock face, a sanctuary chiseled into silence, suspended between heaven and dust. The dry riverbeds, called wadis, twist through the earth like ancient veins. In Wadi Kelt, the echo of hooves and sandals seems to linger in the air. There, desert foxes dart between thorned bushes, and Bedouin paths wind toward hidden springs that have whispered life into this arid land for millennia. In the stillness, time becomes porous. You may find yourself gazing at the Mar Saba Monastery, its golden stone rising from a cliffside like a vision from another world. Founded in the 5th century, it still keeps its ancient rituals alive, candles flickering behind thick walls, prayers dissolving into dusk. But the Judean desert is not only sacred, it's raw, wild, alive. Dust storms sweep across its plains. Sunlight paints the land in copper and shadow. Ibexes leap across high ridges. And as night falls, stars flood the sky with fierce, unfiltered brilliance. Constellations remembered by shepherds and kings. This is the Judean desert, a place of ascension and descent, of exile and return, where the land speaks in silence and the wind carries secrets. Unseen by most, but unforgettable to those who walk its edge and listen. If this hidden world stirred something in your soul, subscribe to our channel and follow the path through the unseen. There are more deserts, more prayers, more horizons waiting just beyond the dust. Yad Vashem doesn't simply hold history, it carries its weight, in silence deeper than stone and echoes older than memory. Set upon the hill of remembrance in Jerusalem, this place does not whisper. It mourns, it remembers, and it teaches, with the gravity of 6 million shadows cast across time. You don't just visit Yad Vashem, you enter a reckoning. The pathway winds through stark architecture and quiet gardens, each step drawing you closer to what was lost and what must never be forgotten. Light and darkness aren't just contrasts here, they're language, a conversation between horror and hope. Step into the Holocaust History Museum and feel the shift. The air cools, the world narrows. Photographs gaze back from the walls, faces of children, mothers, brothers, lovers, all paused mid-life, mid-laughter, mid-dream. Their absence is thunderous, their presence undeniable. Walk through reconstructed ghettos, peer into transport trains, trace trembling letters written from the abyss. Artifacts are not just objects here. They're anchors to lives once vibrant, now distilled into buttons, shoes, journals, tears. The floor beneath you carries the weight of stories too often silenced. And then, the Hall of Names, a cathedral of memory. You stand beneath a cone of portraits, looking up into the eyes of those who vanished. Around you, volumes of testimony line the circular walls, still incomplete, still growing. The silence here is sacred, almost unbearable. In the Children's Memorial, flickering candles reflect endlessly in mirrored dark, each flame a soul. The names echo in soft, solemn cadence, spoken so they're never lost to the void. Here, even breath feels borrowed, even time feels hollowed out by grief. Outside, the garden of the righteous among the nations offers a fragile light. Each tree planted honors someone who defied darkness, who chose courage over compliance, humanity over fear. Their roots run deep into this scorched soil of history. Timna Park doesn't just lie in the desert, it rises from it, like a dream the earth never stopped having. In this ancient valley of copper and stone, silence hums like an old song, and the wind carves stories into sandstone as it has for millennia. You don't just arrive in Timna, you descend into it. The road winds between ochre cliffs and crimson plains through a palette of iron and ash. Here, every rock is a relic, every shadow shaped by the sun's stern hand. Time doesn't pass in Timna. It settles, like red dust on your boots. Walk beneath the towering Solomon's pillars, where columns of natural stone stand like forgotten giants. Their bases glow gold at sunrise, casting long blue shadows across the valley floor. There is a reverence here, not built but born. You feel it in your chest, that hush before awe. The mushroom rock rises in defiance of gravity and time, a solitary sentinel sculpted by wind and waiting. Nearby, ancient copper mines puncture the hills like breathing holes of a vanished world. Step closer and the walls whisper of miners, pharaohs, and fire. When the midday sun blazes, the rocks shift in color, from terracotta to violet to burnt orange. Lizards scurry across the stone like sparks of life in the stillness. And above, the sky is a dome of merciless blue, eternal, unbroken. But wait for sunset. That's when Timnah transforms. The desert breathes cooler, softer. Shadows stretch, and the cliffs blush with fading fire. The lake, small and sudden, appears like a mirage turned real, its surface a mirror to the sky. Sit here. Let the silence surround you like a warm cloak. There's no rush in Timnah, only rhythm, only presence, only earth in all its sacred stillness. This is Timnah Park, not just a place, but a passage. Into history, into the heart of stone, into the still beating pulse of the desert. If this journey left dust on your soul and wonder in your eyes, subscribe to our channel. Let's keep walking together through the world's quiet miracles, the unseen places where silence tells the oldest truths. Not every sacred story begins with scripture. Some begin with silence, with golden stone and morning bells echoing through narrow alleys. Jerusalem, ancient and ever-breathing, rises not just as a city, but as a crossroads of soul and soil. Every step here walks through layers of dust and divinity, of empires and prayers whispered against sun-warmed walls. It's a place where faith is felt in the shadows, and history presses close like incense smoke in a quiet shrine. As the sun breaks over the Mount of Olives, the old city blushes in gold. The dome of the rock gleams like a celestial crown, catching fire in the morning light, while the western wall, worn smooth by millions of fingers and tears, still holds the weight of hopes written in folded paper. Wander through the Armenian Quarter, where bells toll and old stone arches whisper in silence. Slip into the Muslim Quarter, where the scent of cardamom and cumin swirls with the voices of merchants in ancient souks. The Christian Quarter draws you into narrow paths that wind toward the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where pilgrims move like quiet rivers of devotion. And then, beyond the clamor, there is stillness, Olive trees twisted with time in Gethsemane, the hush of evening over the rooftops, the distant call to prayer threading through sunset air. Step into the city of David, where tunnels echo with the footfalls of centuries, and water still flows through ancient channels carved by faith and necessity. Each stone here tells of kings and prophets, triumphs and betrayals, etched into earth like a second scripture. Climb the quiet terraces of Ein Kerem, where wildflowers bloom beside forgotten monasteries, and wind plays softly through pine and cypress. Here the sacred feels smaller, more tender, carried in birdsong and olive branches. Jerusalem is not just built of stone, but of longing, layered, worn, and luminous. Every gate, every courtyard, every garden holds a secret. Here, the sacred is not just remembered, it's alive, flowing through fountains, etched into doorways, and rising in the voices of those who still believe. This is Jerusalem, a city of echoes and beginnings, where the past kneels beside the present, where the divine touches ground. If this unseen side of Jerusalem stirred something in you, subscribe and walk with us through the forgotten, the hidden, the quietly holy corners of our world. There are still stories rising with the dawn, waiting for someone to listen. Some landscapes are less places, more thresholds, where the land itself seems to lean forward, listening. The Golan Heights, wind-swept and scarred with memory, rises like a quiet sentinel at the crossroads of history and nature. Here, cliffs roll into valleys, and basalt rocks still echo with ancient footsteps of tribes, of shepherds, of soldiers. It's a land shaped by fire, both volcanic and human, yet softened by sky and rain. Mist curls over vineyards that cling to the high slopes like whispered promises. Wildflowers burst from the soil in defiance of old wounds. Rivers born from melting snow carve green veins through the plateau, their waters threading past ruins, olive groves, and lone watchtowers gazing towards Syria. In the hush of early morning, the air is glass. You can hear everything, the hum of bees in the thistle, the distant call of birds wheeling over Mount Hermon, still tipped in snow. Even the silence here feels layered, woven from stories never fully told. Ancient synagogues lie broken but not forgotten, their carved stones laced with moss and sun. Druze villages shimmer in the distance, smoke rising from kitchens where old recipes hold strong. And amid it all, the wind tells its tale, part scripture, part scar, part song. Shepherds still lead flocks along forgotten ridgelines, where each footfall follows centuries of rhythm etched into the earth. Beneath the open sky, hawks circle patiently, their shadows sweeping over hidden springs and crumbling walls. In spring, the land hums with color, red anemones spilling across the hills like dropped paint, while almond trees bloom like soft explosions of light. Old bunkers, hushed and hollow, stand quietly beneath wild vines, reminders of battles now whispered only by the breeze. And there are lakes, too, like Hula and Ram, mirrors of sky and stillness, where reeds bend and frogs sing into dusk. Life returns here in ripples, in petals, in wings, in silence that heals. The Golan is not just land. It is a frontier of memory, of resilience rooted in soil and stone, of beauty held close, quietly. Let it unfold for you, not in maps, but in moments. And if this unseen place stirs something within you, some places don't just rise from stone. They radiate from the very soul of time, pulsing with centuries of reverence, conflict, and devotion. The Dome of the Rock, seated at the heart of Jerusalem's sacred plateau, is more than architecture. It is a cosmic compass. Gold against sky, it gleams not for glory, but for meaning, layered with myths, histories, and divine breath. Walk slowly toward it, and you feel the weight of millennia press gently on your shoulders. The air itself hums, charged with the prayers of prophets and the footsteps of empires. This is no mere shrine. It is a crossroads of belief. Its dome, fire-touched and celestial, floats above ancient stone like the rising sun over a sleeping world. Below, the foundation stone lies veiled in shadow and silence, regarded by many as the very axis of the earth, where heaven once brushed the soil. Step closer, and the mosaics speak. They whisper verses and visions, intricate patterns echoing the unity of the divine across cultures. Every tile is a verse, every curve a sermon. Time does not pass here, it circles. Outside, the olive trees sway with an ageless grace. Birds wheel above minarets and bells. Pilgrims murmur in 1,000 tongues. Yet all fall silent beneath the dome's golden gaze. Peace and tension walk here together, entwined like ancient vines. And in the quiet between moments you may feel it, the ache and awe of being somewhere eternal, a place not built only by hands, but by longing, by faith sharpened into stone. This is the Dome of the Rock, not just a monument, but a mirror of the divine, a still point in a turning world, where stone remembers what the soul cannot forget. If this sacred glimpse moved you, follow us. Subscribe and journey with us to more unseen places, where the earth touches heaven and history still breathes. Some places do not bloom. They bear themselves raw and elemental, etched not in green but in salt and silence. The Dead Sea, nestled between the arid folds of Jordan and Israel, is not alive in the way the name defies. It is still, ancient, and impossibly heavy with memory. The lowest point on earth, it lies like a wound that has healed in crystals. Stand at its edge, and the world falls quiet. The air is thick with minerals, warm and otherworldly, as if time itself evaporates here. The sea does not ripple, it mirrors. Sky and salt blur together until even the mountains become ghosts. Float, and you are held not just by water, but by something deeper. Gravity, that relentless truth, loosens. You drift in silence, suspended in a basin that has cradled prophets, wanderers, and the weight of centuries. The shores are sculpted in salt, white, brittle, and surreal. Pillars rise like forgotten altars. Crystalline ridges crack underfoot like the bones of the earth itself. This is no ordinary shoreline. It is a threshold. And beyond the water, the desert breathes. Heat dances above the sand. Ibex trace the cliffs. The winds carry whispers older than language, sung through canyons that have never forgotten the fire of ancient suns. In narrow wadis carved through stone, freshwater springs still trickle, lifelines in a lifeless world where palm trees rustle like secrets in the wind. Even in such a forsaken place, life insists. Ancient caves overlook the salt flats, once shelters for scrolls and seekers. In their darkness, truths were hidden, inked in silence and preserved in air older than empires. The horizon here seems endless, yet it folds in on itself. Mirage and memory dance across the flats. Even your own shadow feels ancient, stretching longer, slower, as if time deepens the farther you walk. Sunlight glints off salt-encrusted rocks like scattered stars fallen to earth. And when the wind stops, you hear it, the hush of eternity, pressing close. But the Dead Sea is vanishing, receding. Year by year, the salt devours the water and leaves behind scars, sinkholes, crevices, aching silence. Beauty here is not forever. It is urgent, fleeting. It asks not to be consumed, but respected. As dusk falls, the sky blushes with pink and gold. The sea gleams, metallic, celestial, and the mountains beyond, soft in the last light, seem to bow in reverence. This is the Dead Sea. Not dead, but dreaming, a sacred stillness carved from earth and time, where the soul doesn't soar, but sinks gently into something eternal. If this glimpse stirred something in you, we invite you to subscribe. Travel with us to more unseen places, where silence speaks and nature remembers. Not all beauty comes from grandeur. Some of it stands silent, carved into the earth, overlooking the quiet rhythms of time. Arbel Cliff, rising above the Sea of Galilee in northern Israel, is a place where sky and stone meet in wind-blown solitude. Its rugged face bears the weight of centuries, where history and wilderness are stitched into every crevice of limestone. At dawn, mist drapes the valleys below, and the rising sun spills gold over the fields of Galilee. From the cliff's edge, the world feels hushed. Olive groves stretch into the horizon, and the lake shimmers like a sheet of still breath beneath the heavens. Carved into the steep walls are ancient cave dwellings, once used by Jewish rebels seeking refuge in the days of Herod. These hollowed shadows cling stubbornly to the rock, their silence echoing forgotten resistance and the fragility of time. Step carefully along the narrow ridge trail where falcons sweep past and wildflowers bloom defiantly in the wind. The path winds along sheer drops, offering views that seem to open into eternity. Fields, villages, ruins, all softened beneath the gaze of Arbel. Below, the Sea of Galilee rests, calm and timeless. It cradles memories both sacred and ancient. Here, prophets once walked, stories were born, and empires crossed paths beneath the same sky that now watches over a quiet land. Even in stillness, Arbel breathes. The wind that rises from the cliffs carries the scent of time and dust. It hums through the grasses and whispers through the cracks in the stone, like voices too old for language. As sunset falls, the cliffs turn amber and shadowed. The valleys darken, the lake glows faintly, and stars begin to pinprick the heavens. Silence returns, but it is a full silence, not empty. One that holds presence, memory, and a sense of something sacred. This is Arbel Cliff, a place not marked by monuments but by echoes, where every gust of wind tells a story, and every step along the ridge feels like walking the edge of the eternal. Unseen by most, unforgettable to those who stand and listen. If the wind of this place stirred your spirit, subscribe to our channel and join us as we explore the unseen corners of our world. There are still stories waiting to be heard, just beyond the edge. Some places feel like the earth remembering how to breathe. In the heart of an unforgiving desert, where dust and silence reign supreme, Ein Gedi Nature Reserve unfolds like a hidden heartbeat. A lush oasis between ancient cliffs and the salted vastness of the Dead Sea, alive, whispering, and wholly unexpected. Here, waterfalls tumble through stone canyons like spilled light. Pools shimmer beneath tamarisk trees and the shadows of ibex grazing on the ridge. The air is thick with the scent of wild mint and the cool breath of hidden springs. It is a song of survival carved into arid rock. Ramon Crater doesn't boast. It reveals, slowly, deliberately, like a story whispered by stone to sky. You don't just arrive here, you descend into something ancient, something beyond words, a scar on the earth's skin carved by time itself. This isn't a volcanic crater, it's a Maktesh, a geological wonder formed not by explosion, but erosion, a reverse miracle sculpted over 200 million years. At sunrise, the wind carries silence like an offering. Shadows stretch across the cliffs, etching secrets in layers of rose, copper, and ochre. It feels less like standing on Earth and more like gazing into its memory. Step to the edge, and the world falls away. A vast, yawning amphitheater of color and emptiness. The cliffs crumble into canyons, dry rivers, and desert trails where ibex leave fleeting footprints in the dust. The air tastes of minerals and stillness. You breathe deeper here, not because you need to, but because the moment demands it. Down below, the desert isn't dead. It hums. Lichens grip stone. Acacia trees twist toward the sun like silent prayers. Ancient ammonite fossils rest like coiled time capsules, evidence that once this crater lay beneath a primordial sea. Everything you see was once something else, and somehow still is. Travel deeper, and you'll find the solitude of Ein Saharonim, where Nabatean caravans once crossed, spice-laden and sunburned, charting stars across the same sky you now stare into. Or climb Mount Gvanim, where the wind sings through the ridges, and each gust feels like a voice from before memory. At night, the crater becomes cathedral. There are no cities to steal the stars, just you, the wind, and a galaxy pouring light over sleeping Earth. The constellations don't twinkle, they blaze. Here, astronomy isn't a science, it's a conversation. The Ramon Crater doesn't promise adventure. It offers reverence. This is not the kind of place you visit. It's the kind that changes you, quietly, permanently. This is Maktesh Ramon, the heart of the desert, beating slow and deep beneath the sky. If this journey moved something inside you, subscribe to our channel. There are still unseen places on this planet, raw, timeless, waiting. Let's find them together.